So next up, we have a remote talk. David Belson from Cloudflare, who's joining us from Boston over the power of the internet. Oh, and it works. Hello, David.
Good morning. Oh, wow. Now I see me really big. That's really disconcerting.
I will
Okay,
hand you over to you.
great. Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. That's much better. Okay, now I see me smaller. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to present remotely, and thank you for to Robert for inviting me. Um, I wanted to go over this morning a perspective that we had on the April 28th power outage that occurred in Spain and Portugal. When I saw Robert had those on the slides, I said, "Oh no, he's stealing my thunder." But I think there's obviously multiple perspectives that are out there on this. Um, just by way of introduction, I obviously haven't met you, the folks there yet. I'm David Belson, the head of data insight at Cloudflare, and I am responsible for the Cloudflare Radar project. I'm at dbelson on most of the social media sites, or dbelson at cloudflare.com for email. Interestingly, my whole team, my whole radar team, is in our Lisbon office. So all of a sudden, basically everybody on the team became unavailable via Google Chat at basically the same time, and then we started getting our internal monitoring alerts that traffic in Spain and Portugal had dropped. So basically, I sprung into action and started to try to figure out what the heck was going on. I frequently look at internet disruptions, outages, shutdowns, what have you. So one of the good things was that there was a lot of news about what was happening. In many cases, I find I observe a disruption, and then I have to figure out, is this real? What happened? But in this case, there was a lot of social media information and news information about a widespread power outage. So basically, what I did was used Cloudflare Radar to, various metrics available on Radar to look at the impact of the power outage across the internet. And if you haven't taken a look if you're not familiar with Cloudflare Radar, I would suggest taking a look at it. It's at radar.cloudflare.com. And it is made up largely of analysis of the data that's generated by Cloudflare's services. There is some data in the routing section that uses Riper's data and route views data, but by and large, other than that, it's data exhaust from Cloudflare services. So this morning, I'll take a look at the how the impact of the power outage based on traffic metrics, connection quality metrics, and routing metrics. Routing metrics are the announced IP address space. So on Radar, we have both country level and network level, AS level stats, both for regular traffic as well as for DNS traffic. So we run the 1.1.1.1 DNS resolver. So we're able to get a sense of the impact through that as well. So traffic, as you can see, across the net flows traffic, which is all the traffic from the country that's coming to Cloudflare. You can see on the left there that traffic dropped almost immediately, and it was down about 66% within that first half hour. And resolver query volume dropped a little bit over half in that first half hour. And then the dotted line there represents the traffic levels the prior week, so one week prior. So what we can see is that overall traffic on the left there dropped by as much as 75% as compared to the previous week. If we break it out at a autonomous system level, looking at Telefónica España, Orange España, MásMóvil, Vodafone, and Digi, we see that in the first 30 minutes, traffic dropped between 51%. So that's AS12430. That's the one in the lower left corner here. traffic dropped almost immediately by about half. And then next to it, Digi dropped by about 85%. So definitely a much more significant loss there. If we look at Portugal, excuse me, in Portugal, traffic dropped by about 60% right away. And then resolver traffic, the DNS traffic, dropped by about 46% right away. It's interesting to see that there's that immediate traffic drop, then a little bit of a spike that occurred. That spike seems to match a similar spike from the prior week, so I'm not quite sure what wakes up and does a bunch of queries at that time. But something clearly does. And then you can see that it, in both, it remained low through April 29th, so through midday Tuesday. And overall traffic was down as much as 93%. So the widest gap there was about 93% below the previous week. In Portugal, at a network level, we saw traffic drop almost immediately on most of the major network providers there, with the exception of Neo Mobile. So if we look at the slide there that's outlined in orange, we can see that traffic there increased by more than doubled almost immediately as connectivity, as the power outage happened and people lost wired connectivity. They failed over to their mobile devices. And what we saw there was that the traffic jumped, but then my understanding is that Mayo Mobile started to actually limit access to the mobile network to first responders and other folks like that. But otherwise, we saw traffic drop by actually 92% almost immediately on Mayo Residential, so the upper right corner there, and then drop between 62 and 91% on the other ASNs. So pretty big impact on the Portuguese networks. So Cloudflare also monitors network quality, so metrics including bandwidth and latency. So I also took a look at how the power outage and the ensuing network interruptions impacted network quality. So in Spain, median download speeds, the dark blue line there, fell from about 35 megabits a second to about 19. So it dropped in half for several hours. And then median latency, you can see there spiked, growing from as 22 milliseconds to as much as 40 milliseconds. So download speeds falling almost in half and latency almost doubling. Similarly, in Portugal, we saw median download speeds fall from 40 megabits a second to about 15 megabits a second. You can see that drop there. It's not as well defined as Spain. And then the median latency grew from about 20 milliseconds to as much as 50. So again, that spike there as well, but then it began returning to normal, or began falling back towards normal almost immediately. We also, as I mentioned, have the routing data from RightBriz and RouteViews that we can use to look at announced IP address space at a country level or at a network level. So in this particular case, looking at IPv4 space and IPv6 space from Spain, you can see that announced IP address space began to drop almost immediately. And the outage started, if I remember correctly, around 10:30 UTC. So we see that it takes IPv4 space, begins to drop almost immediately, but it hits its bottom several hours later, around 19:30, and the IPv6 address space drops more moderately, but then there's a massive drop, a very brief massive drop around 17:50 UTC. And digging in, trying to match up these drops with the various network providers, it appears that those massive drops there were due to Telefonica de España, AS3352. They lost a significant amount of IP address space at that same time. In Portugal, the losses were a little more moderate. So actually, if I go back to Spain for a minute, the V4 loss was as much as 9%, V6, due to that massive brief drop, was as much as so in Portugal, V4 address space dropped by as much as 8%, and V6 address space dropped by as much as 19%. Um, and in trying to align the big drops that are seen on both graphs with network providers in the country, looks like sort of everybody contributed to it. So there was no single network provider that saw a massive drop that drove what we see on the graphs here. And then about 3 weeks later, another outage happened in Spain. This one was due to Telefonica, so AS3352, and was more localized, actually. So in this particular case, you can see that the outage started around midnight UTC, and then the light blue line there shows traffic for that week, and then the dark blue line is traffic for the prior week, prior week. And what we can see is that in Andalusia, so the top graph there, later that morning, traffic losses were as much as 15 to 20%. And in Basque Country, the traffic losses were closer to 10%. You can see those probably probably around, I'd say, 7 or 8 a.m. UTC there. The challenge here is that in some cases, lower regional and network traffic volumes. So, in many cases, we see lower volumes of traffic as we try to geolocate subnationally. And then when you mash that up with subnational traffic at a network level, it can make identifying those traffic shifts a little bit challenging. So that's why it's not abundantly clear here. There's not a clear drop like we saw on the power outage graphs. And then, so just as just an overview, this data obviously is collected from across the Cloudflare network. We have presence in 330 cities across 125 countries. Connect with around 13,000 networks, 388 terabits of capacity, and based on our measurements, we're about 50 milliseconds from 95% of the world's internet connected population. So trying to place those deployments as close as possible to where the end users are. So that's what I have. So thank you for the time, and obviously there's time for questions.
Thank you, David. Feel free to turn your video back on if you want.
Yep, doing that right now. Thank you.
So, do we have any questions? None at all?
I never know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Shows you give an excellent comprehensive talk.
Thank you.
The standard question is, are you staying for sauna? But perhaps not.
I'm gonna go. It's 6:30 a.m. here, so I'm gonna go shower. So that's close.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you very much, David, for joining us. Maybe next time you can come in person.
Hopefully.
Okay. Right. Thank you again. So